Public Interest SA is honouring whistleblowers this Human Rights Day. The group says it appreciates those who continue to shine the light on corruption and wrongdoing. Public Interest SA founder Tebogo Khaas is with us now in studio to talk more about this. A very good evening to you, sir. Grateful for your time on this Human Rights Day. Why is it so important, especially today, to acknowledge the role and position of whistleblowers in present-day South Africa?
It is quite important that for us to pause and reflect on the role that whistleblowers help show the constitutional order that we have. Because without whistleblowers, most of the excesses that are intended to actually eat at the fabric of the Constitution itself would actually be accelerated. And we only have to thank whistleblowers who also are on the receiving end of the short end of the stick from government, which doesn't seem to be doing quite much to help alleviate their plight. And it is with that in mind that we thought we should refocus or dedicate this Human Rights Day as Public Interest SA to those who've given up so much of their time and so much of risk so much of their livelihoods as well as their lives, and some have actually paid the ultimate price of being exterminated for just doing just what is right. So we believe that whistleblowers, as we celebrate human rights, they should actually also take their rightful place.
But they say, a lot of them, at least those we've been able to speak to, that they are tired of the thank yous and appreciation for their work. What they would like is protection and a decent life after they've made exposures. I mean, many of the people who, for example, appeared before the State Capture Commission of Inquiry speak of how not only did their personal lives suffer, but even getting employment after making certain disclosures has worked against them.
Yeah, sadly we live in a society where we don't walk the talk. Most corporates would say something about whistleblower and say that they actually support whistleblowing and whistleblowers, but in actual fact, indeed, there's very little that seems to be happening. So, and I have personally met with a lot of whistleblowers. Most of those actually appear before the State Capture Commission. And if you listen to the kind of environment that they have to endure, first from physical security, mental health, and the fact that some of them cannot even be employed or are rendered unemployable in the private sector. It is something that is sad. It's a sad indictment on us who today want to celebrate human rights and forget about the rights of those who actually protect the Constitution.
I mean, someone like Ethel Williams had to flee the country. If you think about it, you make a disclosure, you're told, great, you're a hero, you've helped deal with the issue of corruption or even make progress towards dealing with it, yet years later, you're the one who ultimately has to part with your family, part with the only life you've known. That
we have Arthur Williams flee South Africa to go and find refuge in Europe. And recently we also had Patricia Mashale also had to lie low because she's been intimidated and her life is in peril as we speak. And many others. In fact, we even had two, I would call whistleblowers, who were actually taken out during the course of last week in Midrand. The gentleman who was a liquidator,
yes,
who was actually who was exposing the wrongdoings in both the private sector and also in the public sector. It is not a safe and welcoming environment in South Africa to be a whistleblower today. And it is sad because there are tools that government could actually use to make sure that whistleblowers get to at least have a sense of protection or being looked after, as it was happening with the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission, where a certain portion of the recoveries from acts of whistleblowing actually gets to be set aside for distribution for whistleblowers. How
do you then balance the repeated line that government is committed to the protection of whistleblowers and that it's an issue that they are seized with and are trying to address? How do you balance that with the lack of tangible results on the ground in the lives of people who did indeed expose corruption?
You know, we take a cue from our leaders. If we've got, as a leader, a president who once said he knows of wrongdoing within the ANC, he knows of people who have stolen money, but he protects the ANC than tell on them. That is a sad indictment. That is not reassuring at all to whistleblowers. We need to ensure that those who lead us or those who purport to have an interest of whistleblowers, they actually have to live it. But you don't see that happen in real life, and it is quite worrisome.
And just lastly then, on that point, is it worth it?
It is. It is. I can easily say it is worth it, but whether everybody should do it, it depends on the circumstance, because I cannot tell to somebody else that it is worth it, but lay your life down for it, because it is not. It shouldn't be that people's life are actually taken because of whistleblowing. So it is worth it. It is always a good thing to be ethically aware and to do the right thing, even when nobody's watching.
Mr. Tebogo Khaas, thank you so much for coming in on this public holiday.